In at number 10, Bella Thorne. Bella Thorne played Ruthie Spivey in the television series My Own Worst Enemy back in 2008 and Tansy Hendrickson in the 4th season of Big Love in 2010. However, she began gaining prominence for her role as Cece Jones in the Disney Channel series Shake It Up, which she was a part of from 2010 to 2013. Although Bella admits herself that she never wanted to be a Disney star. During an episode of the MTV podcast Happy, Sad, Confused, Thorne admitted that she didn't want to audition even, but she felt she needed to because her family was close to homelessness. While that may seem like a very nice thing for her to do, she maintained this attitude of not wanting to be there. She would repeatedly tell the director that she doesn't know why she's there, and people would just laugh about it, thinking that she was just joking around, I guess. In reality, she hated being there the whole time. Makes it very difficult to work with if someone doesn't like what they're doing. In at number 9, Orlando Brown. While at the 2018 Radio Disney Music Awards, Raven-Symoné was asked about Orlando Brown's new tattoo, which just so happened to be, well, Raven's face. Here's what she had to say.
Yeah, what do you make of that? I make of the 2nd season of That's So Raven will be coming out July 25th. Bye!
Looks like they haven't really been keeping in touch following their time with Disney. Orlando was a child actor on many sitcoms, but is best known for his role as Eddie Thomas on That's So Raven. However, it became evident how difficult he is to work with when Disney reprised the show under its new name, Raven's Home. While her and Annalise Vanderpool came back, Orlando was noticeably missing from the reunion. The main reason why they couldn't have him back is due to his non-Disney-like behavior. Brown made headlines after he was arrested for public intoxication and disturbing the peace after he threatened to kill a woman. Not exactly the best person to be working with after that. In at number 8, Lalaine Vergara. Lalaine is best known for her role as Miranda Sanchez on Lizzie McGuire, and after she tried to pursue a music career, she sort of fell into obscurity. She had filmed with the show from 2001 to 2004, but by 2007, people started to find out who she really is. In July of 2007, Lalaine was arrested and charged with felony possession of methamphetamines. She pleaded guilty to the charge, and a $50,000 bench warrant was set after she failed to appear in court for her hearings. And according to Lalaine, she had some serious beef with her fellow actors as she was the only one deemed to be too ethnic. They actually told her to look as white as possible, which undoubtedly caused some tension between her and everyone else on the show. When a Lizzie McGuire reboot was in the works, they confirmed every character returning, but Lalaine was left out of the conversation.
In spot number 7 is Charlie Sheen. His partying and aggressive behavior made him nearly impossible to work with on the set of 2.5 Men. He ended up being fired from the show, and it became a huge public lawsuit. In a letter to Sheen's lawyer, the Warner Brothers counsel described him as having a series of well-chronicled and increasingly erratic outbursts. They also pointed out that he had missed rehearsals, made inappropriate comments, and was losing weight quickly. They claim that they gave him multiple chances to clean himself up in rehab, but he never did. Instead, he cursed out the producer and demanded a ridiculous raise. They ended up firing him and replacing him with Ashton Kutcher.
In at number 6, Zac Efron. Zac Efron first rose to prominence when he landed the lead role of Troy Bolton in Disney's High School Musical. From there, he basically became a teen heartthrob and at the center of attention in Hollywood. Zac told The Hollywood Reporter that he started drinking a lot and got deeply involved with hard drugs. His excuse was that he was in his 20s, single, and going through life in Hollywood, and everything felt like it was just being thrown at him. Apparently, while filming the movie Neighbors with Seth Rogen, his drug habits started to spiral out of control. They even needed to halt filming while he checked himself into rehab for a cocaine addiction. And then on top of that, his reckless behavior extended further than just his substance abuse behind the scenes. According to TMZ, Zac got himself into a violent altercation with a homeless man on Skid Row in Los Angeles, which resulted in him getting punched in the mouth right before the police finally separated them. A source told TMZ that Zac was obviously intoxicated and willingly engaged in mutual combat with this homeless guy. Yeah, that's not stable behavior for an actor that you want to work with. Definitely not for Disney. In at number 5, Idris Elba. Most actors that are part of the MCU see it as a blessing for their career, which is a lot considering that most of Hollywood shied away from superhero films because they didn't want to be pigeonholed. Even though Idris Elba had a key role in the franchise, he still believed in the latter and actually referred to working in Marvel movies as torture. Specifically, he was referring to his role in Thor 2 and the reshoots required after he had wrapped on the film Mandela: Long Walk to Freedom. Idris elaborated on this scene, specifically when he told media outlets, "I'm actually falling down from a spaceship, so they had to put me in a harness in this green screen studio, and in between takes I was stuck there. Fake hair stuck on my head with glue, this effing helmet while they reset. And I'm thinking 24 hours ago I was Mandela. I was literally walking in this man's boots. Within 6 months we were all so in love with this film that we had made. I was Mandela practically, then there I was in this stupid harness with this wig and this sword and these contact lenses. It ripped my heart out." And that statement ripped mine out. We love you, Idris. Why would you... be so difficult to work with. In at number 4, Jake T. Austin. Beginning his career as a child actor at the age of 7, Austin is a 5-time Young Artist Award nominee, 2-time Teen Choice Award nominee, and Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Award nominee. He's best known though for his role as Max Russo on the Disney Channel series Wizards of Waverly Place. Dick attributes a lot of his bad behavior to the tough transition of moving from child actor to an evolved adult star. While at the Teen Choice Awards, apparently Austin threw a giant temper tantrum backstage after a staff member didn't recognize him. According to TMZ and multiple eyewitness accounts, he became infuriated by this and started throwing empty shoeboxes at a female staff member. But then he said this next year.
This has been the summer of kick-ass women.
Alright guys, in our third spot is Teri Hatcher. She was the lead actress on Desperate Housewives for a while, but that seemed to get in the way of her and the rest of the cast. Her co-star Nicolette Sheridan talked about her experience working with Teri and called her the meanest woman in the world. Things were so heated between them that the creator, Mark Cherry, admitted that he had to intervene a fight between them during filming one time. It wasn't just Nicolette though that had an issue with her. The rest of the cast and crew felt so disconnected from her that at the end of the show, her name was left off the card that the cast gave to the crew. That's awkward. Imagine being the only one who didn't sign the card. Not good.
In at number 2, Jake Paul. Jake is far from his Disney acting days now, but according to reports, he wasn't the easiest person to work with. Aside from Vine, he really rose to prominence for playing the role of Dark Man on the Disney Channel series Aardvark. Although Jake was unceremoniously dropped from the show before the start of the second season, and his exit was listed as effective immediately. Paul had been making local headlines in Los Angeles after complaints that he had been getting from his neighbors over alleged partying and pranks at his West Hollywood rental house. He was then featured in a KTLA news report after he started climbing up on her news van during a live broadcast.
Can we do it by the truck?
Yeah.
In a minute. Yeah.
Let's go by the truck.
Whoa! I wouldn't crawl up there.
Why?
Okay. I just wouldn't do that.
I want to do the interview here.
Yeah, can't do
A spokesperson from the Disney Channel refused to comment as to why they dropped him, but explained that it was a mutual departure and that they wished him all the best. Probably had a lot to do with those news segments. I'm gonna go with the news segments. Last but certainly not least, in our number 1 spot, Miley Cyrus. Arguably one of the most successful child stars of her generation, Miley has had a rise and fall like nobody else. She became a teen idol as the title character of the Disney Channel television series Hannah Montana, which ultimately led to her becoming a very successful recording artist as well. Although all of that fame and being the daughter of a rock star aren't necessarily great for one's ego. She started to perform as both Hannah Montana and herself, which really did a number on her psyche and led to her becoming sort of a double diva. In her book titled Miles to Go, Miley reflected on her time working with co-star Emily Osment on the show and said that when the cameras stopped rolling, they didn't really get along. Miley writes, "The show felt real to me and I wanted my relationship with Lily to feel real too. I knew it didn't have to, show business is show business, but I was disappointed. There were times when I didn't think we could ever be friends. We just couldn't figure out how to get along. Probably because you're a diva. Just guessing." In at number 10, Terrence Howard. Back in 2008 when the Marvel Universe kicked off with the first Iron Man film, most of the cast would soon become key players in what would be a very successful franchise. Terrence Howard was the original War Machine and Tony Stark's sidekick slash, babysitter. In past interviews when Terrence was first starting out, even he realized that he was difficult to work with. After his first starring role in the film Hustle and Flow, Howard told interviewers that the reason he isn't in the limelight is a direct result of how difficult he can be to work with. Unfortunately for Terrence, Marvel Studios is equally difficult to work with, and in the early days of filming, they just started cleaning house. If anyone gave them the slightest issue, they were replaced at the next available opportunity. On top of reports coming from the set of Iron Man that he was living up to this reputation, it was also noted that director Jon Favreau wasn't exactly loving his performance. Then by the time Iron Man 2 rolled around, he would soon be replaced by Don Cheadle. The saddest part of this story is looking back at that first Iron Man film where Terrence sees the War Machine suit and says, "Next time." Little did he know, there would never be a next time. In at number 9, Brie Larson. When Brie Larson was confirmed to play Captain Marvel, the comic book trolls bombarded the Rotten Tomatoes page with negative reviews before the film was even released. Part of the reason fans were upset with this new Marvel character was mostly due to how much they pushed the fact that she was a woman, as if there was never any female superheroes before her. Fans correctly noted how Wonder Woman was able to allow the character to just speak for herself when it came to sending a message of female empowerment. Although with Captain Marvel, there was almost too much of a focus focus on her gender being the reason that she was a hero. Perhaps the main reason she had become difficult to work with was that Larson's own politics began creeping in during press junkets. In what was a PR nightmare, Brie made several comments about how there were too many white men in Hollywood, which even included the critics that review the movies. She's not wrong, but it's also a very hostile way to start your MCU journey, especially considering that most of her castmates are, well, white men. In at number 8, Natalie Portman. In another stunning example of identity politics spoiling casting choices, Natalie Portman originally left the MCU because of a female director being fired. Portman was locked in to do the Thor sequel, but after top executives decided to drop Patty Jenkins as the director, Natalie was furious. She also made a point of letting every news outlet know just how deeply upset she was by the decision. Natalie wanted to quit immediately following Jenkins' departure out of protest, but she was contractually obligated to finish the film. Although one of the most surprising things to happen at the 2019 San Diego Comic-Con was the announcement that Portman would be returning to the MCU for an appearance in Endgame, as well as the next installment of the Thor solo series. So she can't be that hard to work with. In at number 7, Demi Lovato. Demi Lovato had been a Disney kid for a long time. She appeared on Barney and Friends from 2002 to 2004. However, between 2007 to 2008, Lovato played Charlotte Adams on the Disney Channel short series As the Bell Rings. She then auditioned for the channel's television film Camp Rock and new TV series Sunny with a Chance, for which she landed both roles. Now, to Demi's defense, she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and struggled a lot with finding body confidence. So needless to say, she could be a bit of a nightmare on set, but it was primarily due to the pressures of maintaining this presence while on top after all of this early success with Disney. During an interview with Refinery 29, Demi said, "Prior to getting sober, I was one of those people who was like, I don't give a whatever. And I used that as an excuse to do whatever I wanted. I was a nightmare to work with." Well, at least she admits it herself. In at number 6, Gwyneth Paltrow. Even though Gwyneth Paltrow has been part of the MCU since its inception, she clearly only is paying attention to the paychecks. During an episode of the Netflix show Chef's Table, she completely forgot that she was in Spider-Man Homecoming. And even worse was that she had no idea Samuel L. Jackson was a member of the MCU, even though she had been in 5 films with him at the time. Although at 46, Paltrow wasn't interested in dressing up in a superhero suit anymore and was very vocal about this upon her departure from the franchise following Endgame. Gwyneth told Variety magazine that she doesn't see herself committing to any more sequels and that she really only got involved because she was friends with director Jon Favreau.
Halfway through at number 5 is Shannen Doherty. She was a huge breakout star in the 90s when she worked on Beverly Hills 90210, but she quickly earned a reputation as a difficult actress. One of her co-stars, Jason Priestley, described her diva-like behavior in his memoir and said that she, I quote, truly didn't give a shit. He said that she complained when a publicist picked her up in a car rather than a limo. One of her other co-stars and friend, Jenny Garth, said they got into an altercation on set that started to get physical. It led to Shannen being fired from the show altogether, since she just seemed to be the issue and just always had an issue with someone. She was the common denominator.
In at number 4, Mickey Rourke. Oscar winner Mickey Rourke famously hated starring in Iron Man 2, even saying after his starring villain role that Marvel heads diluted his character Ivan Vanko to a one-dimensional bad guy, adding that creative control rested with some nerd with a pocket full of money calling the shots. Mickey Rourke is the kind of actor that always wants to add more layers to his character, and although they initially agreed to this, he was surprised when the decision makers pulled the rug out from underneath his intended performance. Mickey went on to say, "I'm not a Marvel fan. Once I did a movie for Marvel and they cut the whole goddamn thing out. When you bring it to the table, it's really disappointing when they cut things out." According to reports, Rourke did not take this decision lightly and would continuously be a pain to work with on each day that he was scheduled to film. In at number 3, Ashley Tisdale. During her childhood, Tisdale was featured in over 100 advertisements and had minor roles in television and theater. She also achieved mainstream success as Maddie Fitzpatrick in the Disney Channel series The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Her success was heightened even further when she starred as Sharpay Evans in the High School Musical film series from 2006 to 2008. Tisdale even admitted herself that she was very difficult to work with during her time on High School Musical. During a chat with Andy Cohen, she said that her and Lucas, who played her on-screen brother, didn't get along at first. She told the host that they didn't get along at first because when they were screen testing, she was only giving him just like regular line readings, so not really being in the character. Then when he asked her to, method act to get themselves into character, she noticed that her attitude was creeping a little too closely to that of her character Sharpay. She went on to say, "I do think I became a lot like the character, and I think he thought I was really like Sharpay, and it wasn't until we wrapped that he was like, oh, you're not that person." Or is she? In at number 2, Guy Pearce. Before starring as the slimeball villain Aldrich Killian in Iron Man 3, Pearce had a list of demands before he agreed to even take on the role. While his agency was excited at the opportunity to have their client involved with this project, Guy was a little more hesitant. He was very open about how he preferred preferred to work with interesting directors and weighty material, but took the meeting because he enjoyed the first Iron Man film. Shane Black, who directed the film, was a big fan of Guy Pearce and was basically bending over backwards just to get him in the room for a meeting with Marvel Studios. Shane ran him through the general idea of how he would be involved in the film, but Pearce did end up telling his agent that he was not going to do the movie until they showed him the script. As we're sure you know by now, Marvel is very secretive about handing out material for projects because, well, they don't want any details leaked. Although when Pearce refused to take the role without a script, they emailed him a link that would expire after 2 hours. Last but certainly not least, on our number 1 spot, Anthony Hopkins. After Thor: The Dark World, Anthony Hopkins admitted that he had no interest in coming back as Odin for the following film, Thor: Ragnarok. Apparently, he had been so disinterested in the entire Thor franchise that he felt doing 2 movies was more than enough for him. It wasn't until Taika Waititi was announced to be directing the next movie that he agreed to stay on board. I guess when you've been acting as long as Anthony Hopkins has, you can kind of start throwing your weight around with demands. He was a big factor in the decision to make this film more comedic than its predecessor. He insisted again and again that he would not be part of the MCU if they decided to take the film in the same dark and gritty route that the previous one did. Sure enough, the film turned out to be a standalone classic of the franchise, but his posh attitude was duly noted by executives at the time.
Kicking off our list, number 10 is Bruce Willis. He's known for playing action heroes and taking on occasional dramatic roles, but despite his successful career, he hasn't been able to avoid rumors about being difficult to work with. The director of Cop Out, Kevin Smith, said that working with him was soul-crushing. He even gave a nice little speech at the wrap party where he said, I quote, "I want to thank everyone who worked on the film, except for Bruce Willis, who is a effing dick." It also doesn't help that he's been known for demanding higher pay for movie roles, which is why he was dropped for the 3rd Expendables film, because he wanted more money. Pretty sure you make enough there, Bruce. Up next, number 9 is Julia Roberts. She's been a huge Hollywood actor for years, and from the outside looking in, she doesn't look anything far from sweet and kind, to me anyway. But sources have revealed that she can be difficult to work with. Crew members from the movie Hook gave her the nickname Tinker Hell, rather than using her character name Tinkerbell. Steven Spielberg was also asked during an interview if he would ever work with her again after the 1991 movie, and he responded with a simple no. The two of them apparently butt heads, and people say it was because she was struggling since her engagement to Kiefer Sutherland was called off 4 days before their wedding during that time. Spielberg didn't bash her name, like he really wasn't that harsh about it. He just said that it wasn't a good experience working together. I can't picture Julia Roberts being mean.
In at number 7, Edward Norton. When The Incredible Hulk was released, no one really considered that this would officially be the second entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. At the time, Edward Norton was an excellent choice to take on the Jekyll and Hyde scientist Bruce Banner. Although once the film came out, rumors started circling that Norton was very difficult to work with on set. One insider report claimed that he insisted on rewriting the script himself. These claims were confirmed a decade later by Ed himself during the roast of Bruce Willis, where he utilized his time on stage to take shots at Marvel. Norton would go on to say that he thought they should at least try to make one Marvel movie that was at least as good as the worst Chris Nolan movie. Major shade. Although this hostility is not out of place, shortly after he was fired, Kevin Feige released a statement saying, "Our decision is definitely not based on monetary factors, but instead rooted in the need for an actor who embodies the creativity and collaborative spirit of our other talented cast members." Fair enough.
Swiping the 6th spot on our list is Lea Michele. She was recently called out by one of her former Glee castmates who said that Lea made her life a living hell during filming. But this wasn't the first time these types of claims came to surface. One of her former Glee co-stars, Naya Rivera, wrote a book which stated that Lea kept threatening to call SAG about the unsafe working conditions, and said that she would throw a bitch fit and then lock herself in her trailer. Lea also works on the show Scream Queens, and she actually told Women's Health magazine that she went to the producer and said that she would only do a recording of her screaming twice, and that is all they have to use for the entire season because she's a singer. Apparently singers can't do that. It'll harm her vocal nodes. Ain't that some shit? You sign up for a show called Scream Queens, then be like, you get one scream for the whole season. Same pitch and everything. Hope it works in every sequence.
In at number 5, Shia LaBeouf. Most people will recognize Shia LaBeouf from his time with the Transformers franchise, but I'll always know him as just Louis Stevens in the Disney Channel series Even Stevens, a role for which he received a Young Artist Award nomination in 2001 and won a Daytime Emmy Award in 2003. Although Shia LaBeouf's career would soon take a tumultuous turn. In 2017 alone, the actor was sued for $5 million by a bartender. He was arrested in Savannah, Georgia for public intoxication, and he was ordered to attend a 10-week rehab program. Although Shia has done his best to shed all these rumors surrounding him about being difficult to work with. I mean, while working on the set of Fury, he received a ton of praise from his fellow actors. Brad Pitt even paid him a huge compliment during his interview with GQ magazine. Brad told the magazine, "Oh, I love this boy. He's one of the best actors I've ever seen. He's full-on commitment, man. He's living it like no one else. Let me tell you, I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of great actors, and he's one of the best I've ever seen." I wish I could have done that in a Brad Pitt voice. We'll get there.
Moving on to number 4, we have Mike Myers. There has been a lot of crazy stories that have come out about him acting like a diva or a complete weirdo on set, like the time that he got mad about the butter that they had on set, or the time that he needed an assistant to carry around a Tupperware of chocolate and basically follow him around set in case he needed the snack. There's honestly too many incidents to name them all right now, but the director of Wayne's World spoke on his feelings towards the actor and said, "I honestly root against him." He said that he had a horrible attitude on set and suggested that he opens a children's hospital or something so that he can clean up his reputation. Honestly though, we don't really see him in many movies anymore, and this list might be a reason why.
In at number 3, Vin Diesel. There's almost no end to the stories about Vin Diesel being hard to work with. The star has been accused of hitting on interviewers and stirring feuds with co-stars. Most notably was his recent feud with Dwayne Johnson. When Vin Diesel started to voice the character of Groot, everyone absolutely loved the character. Luckily for Vin Diesel, he never really had to directly interact or work with other actors in the film. While Groot may seem to be one of the most unifying characters for the Guardians of the Galaxy crew, the reality is the actor voicing him is the exact opposite. According to reports, while filming Fast and Furious 7, he was an absolute nightmare while on set. This insider told The Hollywood Reporter Vin spent a whole day in his trailer one day. The next day, they waited 4 hours for him. He called a meeting of studio execs to his trailer for 2.5 hours to say, "What the F am I doing here?" And then the next day, work was done with doubles, and another source confirms that progress had been frustrating with the whole crew suffering from low morale. All thanks to Vin Diesel.
Taking over the number 2 spot is Katherine Heigl. This actress has one of the harshest difficult actors to work with titles because it seems like she dug herself into a hole on a few occasions. Like the time in 2008 when she criticized a movie she starred in, Knocked Up, by calling it sexist, which ended up causing a feud with the director and her co-star Seth Rogen. Then she disrespected the Grey's Anatomy writers by claiming the writing wasn't good enough for her to be considered for an Emmy. She has apologized for her comments, but her reputation just still stands the way it is. Probably because she went as far as actually withdrawing herself from the nomination for the Emmy. Like, she put in a lot of effort to make some calls and say, "Oh, I don't need to be nominated." That's insane. What a fool. Earning the number 1 spot is Christian Bale. Now, I like to think that he has matured over the years, and over time he has reflected on the incident where he went off on a lighting crew member. The behind the scenes footage of an altercation went viral online, which showed Bale losing it on a crew member during a scene from Terminator Salvation. In the clip, he is yelling at the crew guy, threatening to get him fired, dropping the F-bomb left and right, honestly just going insane for like 10 minutes. Apparently, the crew member walked into frame during one of his scenes to fix a light, but it threw Bale out of character and he was pissed. He has apologized since then and admits that his behavior was inexcusable, but similar stories have been told from other movie sets that he has been involved with. So we really don't know if he's still hard to work with or not. But after seeing that video, I'd be so scared to work with him. He's crazy.
In at 10, Edward Norton. Edward Norton is partially responsible for destroying the Incredible Hulk, and that is no small feat. It's difficult to make a superhero movie bad. Just look at the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. However, Norton managed to do this with his version of the Incredible Hulk, which he insisted he rewrite and had fights with producers of the film's running time. The feud became very public in Hollywood, and Universal's Adam Fogelson was forced to plan a promotional tour that would avoid awkward media attention and interviews. After all the stress, the movie ended up being a flop regardless, and ever since, Edward Norton has never had a good standing in Hollywood, with most actors wanting to avoid working with him at all costs, because you never know what film he's going to try and rewrite. In at 9, Mel Gibson. It has been over 10 years now since Mel Gibson's infamous DUI arrest, which led to the release of his anti-Semitic rant. However, though time has passed, the incident still remains at the forefront in the actor's life, with it directly impacting his career as an actor and as a director. 2016's Hacksaw Ridge was his first successful large-scale movie in a very long time. However, the actor/director does have some projects currently in the works, including a sequel to The Passion of the Christ. Yeah, those are words I never thought I would say. Shane Black, the writer and director of The Nice Guys and the writer of Lethal Weapon, chimed in on the Mel Gibson scandal, stating, "I think he's essentially been blacklisted in the industry. I think people don't want to work with him. While some have come forward to defend the actor, suggesting we give him a second chance, others aren't as forgiving, including the author of Starstruck, The Business of Celebrity, who said the situation is not the same thing as forgiving Lindsay Lohan for partying too late. Anti-Semitism is not just behaving badly." Preach. Coming in at 8, Lindsay Lohan. As a child star, Lindsay Lohan had a hugely successful acting career, appearing in works such as Freaky Friday, Mean Girls, and of course, The Parent Trap. However, as she got older and fell into drugs and alcohol, the media was abuzz with several public arrests and rehab stints. Her behavior ultimately got her kicked off of various sets and fired from a number of different movies, and then of course she failed to launch her own reality TV show. Her career trajectory would also lead her to starring in one of the worst and strangest movies of 2013, The Canyons, which no one should ever set their eyes upon. All in all, Lohan is not someone you'd be investing your money in, forcing some actors to steer away from the once shining star.
Making our way to number 7, we have Wesley Snipes. While he was filming Blade Trinity, reports say he was showing all different sorts of bad behavior. Apparently, he was showing up to set high and would spend all of his downtime hiding out in his trailer smoking up. He started feuding with the director, David Goyer, to a point where things got physical and he tried to choke him. I mean, it doesn't get much worse than trying to choke someone out. After the physical altercation, they both agreed to continue and finish the movie, but Snipes would only communicate with David and the rest of the production crew through post-it notes, because that is the mature adult thing that everyone should do. I wish I could respond with post-it notes when I'm mad at someone. After the film was wrapped, the actor sued the studio for $5 million, claiming that the director and cast harassed him because of his race. However, his claims did not last long and the lawsuit got settled outside of court.
In at 6, Katherine Heigl. Katherine Heigl has always had a negative reputation in Hollywood for as long as she's been around, quite literally. She quickly earned herself the reputation of being awful, with Grey's Anatomy creator Shonda Rhimes turning Katherine's name into an adjective when describing her show Scandal. I quote, "There are no Heigls in this situation." However, Heigl clapped back, saying, "I would never go out my way or consciously try to hurt anyone's feelings or make them feel bad or uncomfortable or not being professional. Do my job. I like my job. All I can say to that is, sure, Jan." After starring in the movie Knocked Up, the star went on to make negative remarks about the movie and its portrayal of women, which as we know is not the way to make friends in the industry. Coming in at 5, Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen is renowned for being difficult to work with, particularly while working on the set of 2.5 Men. In a letter to Sheen's lawyer, Warner Bros. Counsel described the troubled actor as having, I quote, "a series of well-chronicled and increasingly erratic outbursts." Warner Bros. Also went on to note that Sheen missed rehearsals frequently and directed inflammatory comments towards show creator Chuck Lorre. Ultimately, Sheen was fired from the show and replaced by Ashton Kutcher for the show's final 4 seasons. However, Sheen later went on to tell Matt Lauer that he regrets ruining 2.5 Men. I mean, he didn't really ruin it, the show was a piece of to start with, so. In at 4, January Jones. January Jones, best known for playing Betty Draper on the hit AMC series Mad Men, has been nominated for 2 Golden Globes and an Emmy. She is a fantastic actress, there's no doubt about that, with her appearing in other works such as The Last Man on Earth, X-Men First Class, Spinning Out, and Unknown. However, she is also known for being cold, with an unpleasant temperament. Well, at least that's how her co-stars have been describing her. It was also once said that January Jones was the one person you would never want to approach while on the set of Mad Men. According to comedian Zach Galifianakis, he claimed the star was incredibly rude to him during an encounter. However, Jones has responded to these claims, stating that she feeds off of the negativity that comes her way as a form of motivation to do better. I mean, some people say I'm cold, so retweet.
In the 3rd spot is Christian Bale, because his on-set rant has gone down in history and there's no way I cannot share the story again. If you haven't heard about this epic freakout moment, the actor went nuts on a lighting crew member while filming Terminator salvation, and the whole thing was caught on tape. The crew member ruined the scene that Bill was filming because he stepped into frame to check one of the lights. The actor started cursing at him, threatening to kick his ass, and he said he actually wanted him fired from the set. He told the director he would not continue the movie if that crew member was still working on the film. The poor guy in the audio kept trying to apologize to him, but Bill was just not having it. He basically yelled at him for like 5 minutes straight. Now, he did release an apology after that, but I am just sure that it scared off a lot of people from wanting to work with him.
Coming in at number 2, Gwyneth Paltrow. Gwyneth Paltrow has had quite the career spanning over the last 2 decades, well technically 3 now. She's appeared in works such as Seven, Shakespeare in Love, for which she won an Oscar, The Talented Mr. Ripley, The Royal Tenenbaums, and of course she plays Pepper Potts in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All that being said, she also has a terrible reputation on and off the screen. It has been said by countless people that Paltrow is not an enjoyable person to work with or even be around due to her coldness and demands as an actress. Most of this seems to stem from her apparent unpleasantness, which is why she was voted the most stuck-up actress in Movie Line magazine back in 1998. That being said, she hasn't failed to find work as of yet, but I would love to know how her co-stars are feeling. Probably not great. And finally in at number 1, Shia LaBeouf. This should really come as no surprise. Anyone who has seen Transformers or even heard about the movie knows of Shia LaBeouf. Outside of his Disney days starring Even Stevens, it was Transformers that shot the actor to superstardom. He would go on to appear in works such as Fury, The Peanut Butter Falcon, Honey Boy, Lawless, and Disturbia, as well as the one movie we really hate to discuss, Indiana Jones, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. However, in recent years, Shia has been known to be a challenge on and off set, specifically revolving around his strange method acting approach, often leading to run-ins with his fellow co-stars. There are even stories of the actor being involved in physical fights on set, especially on the set of Lawless, where he supposedly punched Tom Hardy, as well as on the set of Fury. Not to mention he had a very public feud with Alec Baldwin, whom he had done a Broadway play with, which led to the actor being fired. Coming in at 10, Daniel Day-Lewis. Now at this time, Daniel Day-Lewis has since retired from acting, but never say never, he may still come back. The Oscar-winning actor was notorious for his method acting, which certainly paid off throughout his illustrious career. However, method acting doesn't always rub people the right way. During the filming of My Left Foot, Day-Lewis refused to leave his wheelchair while playing his paralyzed character, in turn forcing crew members to carry him around set. Yikes. Not to mention, while filming There Will Be Blood, he also threw bowling balls at co-star Paul Dano for one scene. This occurred after Kel O'Neill, who was originally cast in Dano's part, left production, allegedly because Day-Lewis was too intense while filming. He has a handful of Oscars though, so do what you gotta do. In at 9, Casey Affleck. A couple years back, 2 women sued Casey Affleck while working on I'm Still Here. They both alleged that Casey sexually harassed them and went on to retaliate against them. One producer even claimed that he tried to get her to stay in a hotel room with him and then refused to pay her. The DOP of the film also went on to claim that he tried to get into bed with her while she was sleeping. However, both lawsuits were eventually settled. The incident has still left a sour taste in people's mouths though. We all remember when he won the Oscar for Manchester by the Sea and Brie Larson refused to clap. Much respect for my queen. In at 8, Shannen Doherty. Shannen Doherty was a 90s breakout star appearing in the teen drama Beverly Hills 90210. However, she very quickly earned a reputation for being a difficult actress to work with. According to her 90210 co-star Jason Priestley, the actress supposedly didn't give a even once complaining when a publicist had a town car pick her up instead of a limousine. However, producer of 90210, Aaron Spelling, characterized her in a more sympathetic light by stating that she is a very honest person who wears her emotions on her sleeve. If you ask her a direct question, she'll give you a direct answer. However, that fact aside, she was still fired from 2 shows, 90210 and Charmed. Not a good look. It was for the best that she was fired from Charmed. Rose McGowan was always better, and we know it. Coming in at 7, Dustin Hoffman. Dustin Hoffman is one of the most prolific actors in Hollywood, and one of the most legendary, appearing in works such as Tootsie, Rain Man, Midnight Cowboy, and The Graduate, even nabbing 2 Oscar wins along the way. Now, our list is primarily comprised of actors presumed to be difficult to work with. This is one of the only cases where the actor actually doesn't mind their reputation, and if anything, enjoys it. Hoffman throughout his career has been known to be somewhat of a tough guy, and incredibly difficult to work with simply because he wants everything to be perfect, in turn insisting on redoing takes multiple multiple times. In between his huge roles, he successfully managed to garner a reputation for being a grueling actor, and it is well known that director Sidney Pollack would shout at him repeatedly because of it. Coming in at 6, Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer is yet another actor on our list with an absolutely terrible reputation in Hollywood, specifically down to his on-set antics. He was fired by Richard Stanley from the movie The Island of Dr. Moreau after just 3 days of filming. This was in turn due to him fighting with people on set. Batman Forever director Joel Schumacher also reportedly called him childish and impossible, and this could possibly be why we no longer see him pop up in movies anymore. That, and because he can't act for shit. He also has a horrible face.
Halfway through at number 5 is Mike Myers. I have shared one of his stories a few times on this channel after I learned about his ridiculous demands while filming The Cat in the Hat. One of his castmates from the movie described working with him as, I quote, a nightmarish, horrible experience. She claimed that he covered the area around his trailer with tents because he didn't want anyone to see him. She also said he would keep everyone waiting hours when it was time to film a scene because he didn't actually follow the production schedule. He just kinda did his own thing, on his own terms. One thing his co-star Amy Hill and the director both revealed was that he actually had an assistant follow him around with a Tupperware of chocolate, and he would feed him whenever he wanted them.
Coming in at number 4, Lea Michele. This is no big surprise. It was globally known that Lea Michele was quite the diva while shooting the widely popular Fox show Glee back in the day. Her former co-star Naya Rivera wrote a book where she described the time the actress kept threatening to call SAG about the unsafe work conditions. However, Michele fired back at these claims, stating, "So I guess you can throw a bitch fit, lock yourself in your trailer, stall production, yet still allegedly find time to leak stories to the press." Michele then went on to work on the show Scream Queens, which was ultimately cancelled. However, during production she supposedly told Ryan Murphy that she would record just 2 screams and that they could use those throughout the entire show because she was a singer and couldn't possibly scream more than that. In at 3, Chevy Chase. Chevy Chase has had a long-running comedy career, however it has finally begun to take a downward turn due to his terrible behaviour. The actor first built up his reputation on Saturday Night Live, however, even back then he was well known for being rude and antagonistic towards certain cast members, to the point that when he eventually left SNL, nobody really cared. Chase was of course a regular on the comedy show Community, but then he went on to openly diss it, stating, "It's just a mediocre sitcom. I want people to laugh, and this isn't funny." This in turn led to him having a very public feud with the show's creator Dan Harmon. Chase began refusing to be in certain episodes, and the actor went on to leave Harmon incredibly angry voicemails, which of course leaked to the public. Harmon was surprisingly the one fired, however he was brought back when Chase left the show. God bless. Coming in at number 2, Steven Seagal. At this point in time, most people have forgotten Steven Seagal even existed, with his career devolving into direct-to-video releases. However, that's not such a bad thing, considering Seagal has an absolutely terrible reputation that has made folks steer clear from him in Hollywood. There are dozens of rumors of the actor physically abusing workers and actors on set, and according to one report, even kicking someone in the groin when they weren't even wearing a cup. Actor John Leguizamo discussed working with the actor, stating, "I'm playing his master sergeant, and we come in for rehearsals and he says, 'I'm in command, everything I say is law. Anybody doesn't agree?' I was like, bah ha 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 ha." I started cracking up because he sounded like an R word. He came up and he taekwondoed my ass against the brick and he hit me with his elbow. He's 6'5" and he caught me off guard and knocked all of the air out of me, and I was like, why? Why? I really wanted to say how big and fat he was and that he runs like a girl, but I didn't because all I could say was why. Why'd he slam me against the wall? We were rehearsing. And finally, coming in at number 1, Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis being at number 1 may surprise a few of you, however this star has had a reputation for being horrible to work with for many years now. Director Kevin Smith stated that his experience working with Willis on the film Cop Out was soul crushing. At the wrap party, Smith said, I quote, "I want to thank everyone who worked on the film, except for Bruce Willis, who was a f***ing d***." However, this wasn't the only incident involving Willis. He was notoriously dropped from the 3rd Expendables movie for asking for too much money, which in turn caused Sylvester Stallone to tweet out, "Greedy and lazy, a sure formula for career failure."
Kicking off this countdown at number 10 is Jared Leto. No one can deny that he fully embraced his character as the Joker in Suicide Squad. But how far can one go and still get away with calling it method acting? Reports from the movie set claim that the actor never broke his character even when the camera stopped rolling, which sounds like a really committed actor to his craft, but his co-stars revealed that he took things just a little too far and started mailing adult toys to their trailers. He even sent Margot Robbie a dead rat. Not like a toy one, like an actual dead rat. So you could chalk this up and call it method acting, but the rest of the cast and crew said he was just difficult to deal with. Next up at number 9 is Julia Roberts. She's been called Hollywood's sweetheart who captivated the hearts of many people through her different characters, but don't be fooled, it turns out she might not be as sweet as we think. Despite the fact that she's played the girl with a heart of gold in movies like Pretty Woman, you might be surprised to hear that the nice girl image is really just an image. According to her co-star Nick Nolte, who filmed I Love Trouble with her, they had to film their scenes separately because they disliked each other so much. They actually used stand-ins when doing the close-up dialogue shots. Nick spoke about what it was like to work with her and said, "She's not a nice person. Everyone knows that." Does everyone know that though? Because I didn't. But the feeling was mutual apparently. She didn't enjoy working with him either. However, I did some research and this is not the only time someone said she's hard to work with. Sightings number 8 is Liam Neeson. We all know he's a total badass in movies, but what is he like in real life? It will all depend on who you ask. There have been reports made about his strong-headed attitude and ego that can be difficult to work with alongside while filming. It also doesn't help that he's made some incredibly insensitive comments throughout the years, some being completely inappropriate and racist. In 2019, he admitted that he wanted to commit violent acts against black men because he was wanting revenge for a friend of his who was raped by a man of color. Of course, the world immediately called him a racist for trying to categorize the personal incident into a race issue. It is not the first time that he's put his foot in his mouth either, and I can understand why some people just wouldn't want to work with him after controversies like that one. That's pretty bad, my friend.
Coming in at number 7, Sean Young. You may not know her name, but you definitely know who she is. Sean Young rose to fame when she starred in the 80s mega hit Blade Runner. However, what ultimately ended her career was her behavior off camera, according to some reports. Actor James Woods claimed she harassed him by leaving disfigured dolls outside of his home, resulting in him suing her. She also slapped a security guard who threw her out of a party for not having a ticket, according to The Guardian.
In spot number 6 is Sarah Jessica Parker. Rumors started flying that the actress wasn't the sweet and bubbly girl fans were convinced she was after her Sex and the City co-star shared what it's really like to work with her. But the feud between Sarah and Kim Cattrall has been going on for years. It's kinda hard to know which side of the story is really true. Some say it all started after Sarah was given an executive producer title in the second season, which bumped her salary up to $300,000 at the time. Kim refused to do the next Sex and the City movie back in 2017 because she literally wanted nothing to do with her co-star. Then in 2018, Kim's brother passed away and Sarah wrote her condolences on her Instagram post. However, Kim wrote a public announcement in response saying, "Your continuous reaching out is a painful reminder of how cruel you really were then and now. You are not my family, you are not my friend, so I'm writing to tell you one last time to stop exploiting our tragedy in order to restore your nice girl persona." Damn, she did not hold back with that one.
Coming in at 5, Russell Crowe. This Oscar winner can nab any role he chooses seemingly, starring in works such as Gladiator, Les Miserables, even though he can't sing, A Beautiful Mind, LA Confidential, The Nice Guys, and Boy Erased, the latter being absolutely incredible with the star shining through. However, his behaviour off-screen has affected things ever so slightly. In 1999, he got into a fight at the Plantation Hotel in Coffs Harbour, and years later, he yelled at a producer at the British Academy Film Awards. Not to mention, he was also arrested and accused of throwing a phone at a hotel employee before going on to start a weird feud with one of Hollywood's leading men, George Clooney. All in all, most actors either don't want to work with him or outright refuse.
We've made it to number 4 and we have Kirk Cameron. Everyone loved the 80s sitcom Growing Pains, where the actor played the dreamy teenager Mike Seaver. But as the series went on, the actor became deeply religious and started causing some issues on set. Apparently in the later seasons, he spent the majority of his time judging his other co-stars for what he felt was immoral behavior based on his own views. He even requested script revisions to fit his religious belief. He wanted rewrites to some of the scenes and actually refused to do them if not. It was reported that his religion actually led to one of his co-stars, Julie McCulloch, being fired. She played his girlfriend on the series and once appeared nude in Playboy, so he demanded that ABC fire her when he found out. She was actually fired and they rewrote the whole plot. Their characters were actually supposed to get married, so they basically had to change the whole thing.
Coming in at 3, Sharon Stone. According to director of Golden Boy Pupi Avati, Sharon Stone made some questionable comments towards him and an entire country, not to mention made some ridiculous requests. According to the director, she acted as if Italy was a third world country, even asking if they had electricity. Yes, they do. He also went on to claim that Stone would leave the set unannounced and have her manager call them with demands. However, the actress has denied these claims.
Taking over the number 2 spot is Constance Wu. She skyrocketed to success after starring in Crazy Rich Asians, but with that success came a negative reputation because she couldn't keep her mouth shut online. On more than one occasion, she's ranted on Twitter in an ungracious way, and most recently has been titled a diva for her time on set while filming Hustlers. A source from the set came forward and said, "She refuses to do interviews, she won't have visitors on her sets, it's like a cliche, she's very talented but all signs are pointing to a difficult diva." It was also reported that she was rude to crew members and disrespectful to the property that the production team rented her in New York City. However, the actress will defend herself and continues to say that these claims are not true. We've made it to number 1 and we have Joaquin Phoenix. No one can take his recent Oscar award away from him. He definitely deserved it for his role as the Joker in the new movie. But in his acceptance speech, he admitted himself that he is not the easiest person to work with at times. There's been multiple reports made of examples where he was difficult, but some of his behavior actually cost him movie roles. One source said, "Getting him to sign on the dotted line is a nightmare. He'll drag out the salary negotiation for months, which holds up production and costs the studios more money in the end." Apparently, it cost him the role of the Joker in Suicide Squad and a leading part in Marvel's Doctor Strange. But despite his crappy behavior, he's first to admit it, and he's also wildly talented, so I think people would still work with him even if they genuinely didn't want to.